afternoon to you. Earlier on today, apparently, a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't. But having said that, actually, the weather will become very windy, but most of the strong winds, incidentally, will be down over Spain and across into France as well. But there's a vicious-looking area of low pressure on our doorstep, nevertheless, around about the Brittany area, and that is going to head across the southeastern corner of the country, bringing, if nothing else, a lot of rain with it. On the satellite picture you can see that there's of course a lot of cloud as well as a lot of rain stretching right across Europe. Indeed, most areas there are just as unsettled as we are, having some outbreaks of rain. That's the way the rainfall pattern is looking at the moment. A lot of shading, a lot of rain across many parts of Europe. Let's zoom in a little bit closer and have a look at the British scene though. And as you can see, rain is now pushing up towards southern counties. There's a fair bit of rain still further north left over from last night's weather system. Now, as I run the sequence, you can see just how quickly the rain comes up from France, affects many southern and eastern areas, and then eventually later on tonight clears on out of the way and leaves us tomorrow in a fairly stiff run of westerly winds, bringing along quite a few showers. Well, I had a peep at the radar just before I came down a short while ago. It looked as if rain wasn't very far away from the London area, but certainly some outbreaks of rain coming nicely now into many southern counties of England. The more midland areas and Wales are a little bit brighter and drier, just one or two showers around. Northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland, though, a fair amount of cloud. And again, there are some outbreaks of rain, and some of the rain fairly heavy, although it's beginning to ease off and turn showery now over Northern Ireland. Now, as time goes on, the rain in the north will edge up into northern parts of Scotland, tending to brighten up a little bit and dry up in the more northern areas there of England. But the rain further south really setting in as time goes on for East Anglia, many southern parts of England, the afternoon ending up very wet and quite cool too, 12 or 13 Celsius, only the mid-50s Fahrenheit. Now, to begin with this evening, a lot of wet weather around in many eastern and southern parts of the country. Fairly heavy rain in that, still some quite heavy rain in that northern part of Scotland as well. But the rain in the north of Scotland will slowly clear away, and the rain in the south as well, except that is, I think, in those eastern counties where it will last into the morning. And as it clears away, the cloud should break, but it will leave behind just one or two showers. Becoming quite windy, you're going to notice it around these southern and southeastern parts as the evening and night goes on. A reasonably cool night as well. Now, there's the picture for tomorrow. Stiff westerly winds, and that means to say that once the rain clears from the east, it's a mixture of sunshine and showers for us all, and rather cool with it.
It's an action-packed lineup as we close down for the evening this Wednesday on BBC One. And our close-down schedule kicks off with the end credits of the final programme showing that evening. After the end credits, we get to see the BBC One Colour Globe, which is then followed by Kenneth Kendall with the late night news headlines, leading directly into the late night football results, leading directly into the late night roadworks report. And then it's time for the final weather forecast of the day, read by some weatherman who's not good enough to be on during prime time. Then we have a look ahead to the programmes coming up on BBC One the following day, which will lead straight into a public information film, probably featuring some household name the viewers implicitly trust. After that, we get to see the BBC One colour clock, which then leads directly into the final glimpse of the day of the BBC One colour globe, spinning to the strains of the national anthem. And then it's time for some weird engineering tests during the night, when we've already advised you to turn off your set and unplug it. And that's the lineup for the close down, this Wednesday on BBC One.
And so we break off in the 7th frame in what promises to be one of the greatest games of snooker anybody has ever seen in the world.
Well, unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our live coverage from the Crucible. You can always watch the recorded highlights tonight, or you could call the Queen an alien lizard and call yourself the Son of God. Good afternoon. And now a special transmitter announcement. We'd like to apologise to viewers in the southeast of England, and in fact every other corner of the United Kingdom, for our coverage of the Silk Cut Snooker Championship in Sheffield being interrupted by a bubble-haired man proclaiming he is the Son of God and that Her Majesty the Queen is an alien lizard. The BBC would like to make it clear that the personal opinions of individual presenters regarding Her Majesty's genetic origins do not reflect the opinions of the corporation as a whole. And now a look ahead to programmes later today on BBC Two. At 5:40 there's more silent movie comedy with the hilarious murderous twosome Bonnie and Clyde. At 6 o'clock it's Jism, and this week Sebastian Tesco interviews Steve Strange, Sal Solo and Sir Adrian Flagellation, Minister for Overseas Development. There's also music from Hazy Fantasy. At 6:25 we examine the effects of the recent foot and mouth outbreak in North Wales on a trio of farmers who have overcome the loss of their sheep by switching their carnal attentions to other animals. That's 3 men and a goat. After the news at 7:05 it's this week's Midweek Cinema. Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn and George Formby star in the classic 1938 screwball comedy I'll Go to the Back of Our House. At 8:30 we profile the man who Mrs. Thatcher called one of the country's most enterprising individuals, child pornography publisher Oswald Grealish. At 9:20 there's more incomprehensible East European animation in Czech cartoon time, and that's followed at 9:30 by the semi-finals of this year's Pro Celebrity Murder, in which Terry Wogan and Christopher Lee take on Peter Sutcliffe and Ian Brady. At 10 o'clock an old git remembers, and this week 93-year-old Nellie Shadrack from Stockport talks about the war and stuff like that. After Newsnight at 10:30 we round off our programmes for this evening here on BBC Two with more snooker highlights, and that's at 11:15. And those are the programmes for the rest of the day here on BBC Two. Over on BBC One it'll shortly be time for the lunchtime news, and that will be followed by Pebblemall at 1. And today there's gardening with Peter Seabrook, cookery with Delia Smith, and hardcore sex with Bob Langley. There'll also be music, probably from Cleo Lane. Here on BBC Two, however, it's time for me to pop down for a cheese sarnie at the TV Centre canteen, and we'll leave you in the capable hands of a trade test transmission until we return at 5:40.